What would you do if the one thing that made you feel alive was the one thing the world told you to stop doing? This is the story of a boy who was told to be silent and how his silence became the loudest voice in the room. In a small, dusty town where nothing exciting ever happened, there lived a 15-year-old boy named Elias who loved to speak. Not just talk the way ordinary people talk about weather and food and football, but truly speak, with fire, with feeling, with words that made people stop whatever they were doing and listen. He would stand in front of his bedroom mirror every single night, practicing speeches about justice, about dreams, about the kind of world he wished he lived in, his voice filling the small room like it was a concert hall, his hands moving with the words, his eyes burning with everything he felt but could never fully explain to anyone around him. The problem was that Elias stuttered. Not sometimes, not when he was nervous, always. Every sentence was a battle. Every word had to be fought for, dragged out from somewhere deep in his chest, forcing its way through lips that refused to cooperate. "My name is Elias" was enough to make his classmates look at the floor, or worse, laugh. His teachers would wait patiently with expressions that were somehow more humiliating than impatience would have been. His own father, a quiet and practical man who fixed cars for a living, once said gently but honestly, "Son, maybe speaking isn't your thing. Maybe you should find something else." Those words landed in Elias's chest like stones dropped into still water, sending ripples of doubt that never fully disappeared. School was a particular kind of torture. Every time a teacher said, "Read aloud, please," Elias felt his heart drop straight to the floor. He would stand, grip the book until his knuckles turned pale, and begin. The stuttering was always worse when he was afraid, which meant it was always worse in public, which meant every public moment became a nightmare feeding itself. Boys like Daniel would snicker. Girls would pretend to look elsewhere out of pity, which felt somehow worse than the laughter. He ate lunch alone most days, not because he had no thoughts to share, but because the effort of sharing them felt greater than the reward. He came home, went to his room, stood in front of his mirror, and spoke perfectly, fluently, powerfully to his own reflection, which was the cruelest joke the universe had ever played on him. Everything changed because of one teacher. Mr. Osei was not a gentle man. He was not the kind of teacher who spoke softly and gave encouraging smiles. He was the kind of teacher who looked at you like he already knew what you were capable of and was simply waiting with mild impatience for you to figure it out yourself. He taught debate class, which was the last class on earth Elias would have chosen, except that it was the only elective left when he signed up late, and so he found himself sitting in that classroom on a September Monday morning, wanting to disappear completely. On the first day, Mr. Osei went around the room asking every student to state their name and one thing they believed in strongly. When he reached Elias, something happened that had never happened before. Mr. Osei did not look at the floor. He did not smile patiently. He did not rush. He simply looked directly at Elias and waited, with the calm certainty of a man who had absolutely nowhere else to be. Elias took a breath. "My name is Elias, and I believe that every person deserves to be heard." The room was quiet. Mr. Osei nodded slowly and said, "Good, remember that. Not good try, not well done for trying, just good, like it was obvious, like it was fact." Mr. Osei kept him after class that day and said something that Elias would carry for the rest of his life. He said, "I've been teaching for 20 years. I've heard thousands of students speak. Most of them say words. A few of them say things. You say things, Elias. The stutter is noise. What's underneath it is signal, and the world needs signal." Elias didn't fully understand it then. He went home and thought about it for 3 days. Then he came back to Mr. Osei and said he wanted to enter the regional debate competition. Mr. Osei looked at him for a long moment and said, "I know," like he'd been waiting for Elias to arrive at that decision since the first day of class. The preparation was brutal. Elias practiced every day for 2 months. He practiced until his throat was raw, and his confidence was shredded and rebuilt and shredded again. There were days he called Mr. Osei from the bathroom floor of his house, voice shaking, saying he couldn't do it. Mr. Osei always said the same thing: "Get up, practice again. No sympathy, no speeches, just the direction forward." Elias's mother, who had always believed in him with a fierceness that embarrassed him in the way that deep love sometimes embarrasses teenagers, would leave cups of tea outside his bedroom door during late practice sessions, without knocking, without interrupting, just silently saying, "I'm here, keep going." And somehow those cups of tea meant more than any speech ever could. The day of the competition arrived, cold and gray, in a large school hall filled with students who had never stuttered a day in their lives. Elias sat in the 3rd row with his hands flat on his thighs, pressing down to stop them shaking, watching confident boy after confident girl stand at the podium and pour out smooth, perfect, practiced words. When his name was called, he stood up, and his legs carried him to the front, and he looked out at the audience, and the first thing he thought was, "I cannot do this." The second thing he thought was, "But I'm here anyway." He opened his mouth, and the stutter came, as it always did, right at the beginning, catching on the first word like cloth on a nail. Someone in the back shifted in their seat, and then something happened that Elias had never planned and could never fully explain. He stopped, he took one breath, and he said, clearly and slowly, "I stutter. You already know that. What you don't know yet is what I'm about to say." The room went completely still, and Elias spoke for 4 minutes about the right of every human being to be heard, about the cruelty of the world that measures worth by fluency, about what it costs to fight for every single word, and why that fight makes every word more valuable, not less. He stuttered 11 times. He did not apologize once. He did not win first place, he won second, and as he walked off the stage, a girl from another school stopped him and said, "That was the best speech I've ever heard, and I've been doing this for 4 years." His father was in the audience because his mother had called him to come without explaining why, and after the competition, his father found him near the exit and stood in front of him for a moment, then pulled him into a hug that said everything the stones dropped in the water had once taken away. On the drive home, nobody spoke. The silence was full and warm and completely different from the silences Elias had grown up inside. He went on to become a speech therapist who worked with children who stuttered. He also became a public speaker. He never fully stopped stuttering. He never tried to, because he understood something that had taken him years of pain and practice and cold competition halls to learn. His stutter was not the interruption to his message. His stutter was proof that he wanted to speak badly enough to fight for every single word, and any message worth hearing is worth fighting for. Your struggle is not the obstacle between you and your purpose. Your struggle is your purpose. The thing that makes your path harder makes your arrival more meaningful. Fight for every word. The world needs to hear what you have to say. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to our channel for more inspiring English stories every week. Turn on the bell so you never miss a story that could change your life.